You got the whole setup going.
Okay.
I got the electronic drum kit.
Okay, we are live. So, Nathan, thanks for arranging this, and Allie, it's a pleasure.
Pleasure to meet you again, sort of. See you this time.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to talk about that because I want to create a foundation of mutual understanding that allows ourselves to kind of move beyond our social personas so that we can say, okay, what do I want out of this? Okay. So I'm not here to tell you anything that you don't already know. You might have just forgotten it a little bit. But when you hear the truth, you'll recognize it as your own. Not somebody else's that you have to borrow. Not somebody else's the authority. To wake up, you have to have total responsibility for your experience of yourself exactly as you are in this moment. No one else's cause. Your presence, wherever it was, your words, whatever they were, your choices, and your movements, all of it put together, you had choice points at every one of those things, which the result of all of those choices are you in this moment, here and now, with Nathan and I. Okay, so we take responsibility for everything. Everything that was done to us by somebody else where we were the victim was only because we were borrowing an identity, playing a role in a game of life that let's pretend that we're something else other than what we really are. So we can have an adventure. It's kind of like going to the movies. So what movie are we going to... And they like long form movies in heaven, they like them so much. They're allowing the years that it takes to live that movie.
Director's cut.
No. It's the cool thing is, the director is the producer, is the star, is the hero, is the villain, is the victim. Everything. No one's your opponent. There's except in the manner in which you identify yourself as to yourself, which you then project out to other people as this is who and what I am, this is my truth. Respect me as that, treat me as that, flaws and all, because that's how you get to have every type of experience, is to choose whatever level of consciousness it takes for that to be a real and traumatic experience for you, So we diminish ourselves to the point where other people are responsible for our condition in life. We're on this side, they're on that side, we're good, they're bad, If you're in oppositional consciousness, if you can't see the spark of God consciousness in the eye of your enemy, you're lost and asleep. And that's okay. Do you know anyone else that isn't? Not even me. We're all asleep here. I mean, not I mean, why would I say that, as if somehow I made any kind of meritable accomplishment in the opening and experience of transcendent states of consciousness. If you can't maintain it and it's your choice, it's your wish for yourself, then you have to admit your failure. Okay, I'm experiencing myself as who I've been thinking that I am, even though I've had moments of clarity, synchronicities, remembrances, experiences of an utterly sublime home state of consciousness, of beingness, that is so much more real than this. And so the question really is, how much longer do you want to be the story of your life and pretending that that's real and that's you? Apparently we like this so much that sometimes we think that there's only been one awakened being in 2,000 years. Is there anybody else that's taken the position that, don't call me good, for there are none good except the Father which is in heaven? Okay, now that's the consciousness of a holy man. That's the consciousness of one who realizes that their experience of themselves is entirely the result of both this lifetime embodiment choices and prior to the body, choices of parents, circumstances, game plan, things that are going to happen to you. So is that played out? Is there more of your purpose in staying asleep? Does that fulfill your purpose more than awakening as to whatever's truly authentic about you? Beyond the body, beyond time, beyond space. And in theory, and the sound of it is that awakening would be grand, but if we love the idea of it, why don't we love the experience of it? Now, the divine or creator consciousness or universal truth, unconditional love, if any of that kind of points in the direction of what's actually true of you before and after you have a body, is the nature of your consciousness when unfiltered being a true experience by another of being unconditionally loved, cherished, adored, not because of who they're being here, but because what they truly are. God and Goddess consciousness playing a role in the play of life and beginning to wonder if it's time to be awakened within the game as the truth that sets us free. Well, if you ask the question, the answer comes. And when the answer comes, it's okay to ask for what other support and help that you can in the utterly, nearly impossible task of saying yes to your embodying the actual truth of you as your embodied consciousness. And so as a little exercise, a little orientation. Before the universe was nothing, right? No stars, no frequencies, no energies, just nothing. Except that nothingness had to be conscious. So there was consciousness and nothing else. Now, I don't know what a consciousness does without creation. It might actually be much more fun than consciousness in creation, because my experience of creation is I don't like it much here. I don't like myself much here. So, if there's a transcendent truth that has been lived by anyone, anywhere, at any time, and for convenience use, you know, the Christians say that Jesus Christ did better than anyone else in terms of being a reflection of divine perfection. And I'm okay with that. You know, I'm not saying it has to be that. I'm just saying it resonates with me that that is the truth, even if it's just a story. A story, there can be a story about the truth that has yet to manifest. And so is there a divine, enlightened, wise and beautiful purpose and reason for being for you? You know, when I saw you, I was pleasantly surprised, you know? And I thought, it's nice that someone who could be so easily distracted by attention, positive attention from other people, because
Are you calling me pretty?
I am, and for most people, it's a bit of a curse, because it gives a distorted view of reality than everybody else's. You know, there's kind of a favoritism, or you know, it's just, you know, when you see somebody beautiful, you just, you know, beauty inspires everybody, even the ones that are jealous of it. But consciousness, awakening is beautiful, and it's beautiful even in a piece of shit. You know, it would be beautiful if Trump and Harris together held hands and gave each other the possibility that the divine could actively move and flow through them,
Yeah.
and then as them. And paradoxically, could you be happy if both of them did? Man, if they can do it, anybody can do it. And if Jesus did it, or Buddha did it, or anybody else that's ever lived, any of those stories, if any of them are true, I forgot to turn on my portable recorder. If any of those stories are true about any of them, then what it says in words and concepts of things that we can consider, so that we can determine if we're going to focus our consciousness in a particular way to achieve the impossible dream of no longer dreaming. So, what is the easiest pathway to say yes to your awakening without being burdened by books of information, techniques, strategies, teachers. You would think that if you have heavenly origins, and I would say it's much more than that the quality of your authentic expression there, if the embodied consciousness said, I know that my sense of self is colored by every glance from every other person that ever saw me and defined me and codified me in any way. And I accepted that as part of my programming of who I experience myself as here. And so the problem of systems for awakening and enlightenment is there's an impossible complexity to the components of the infinite number of ways that we can misidentify, confuse ourselves, and diminish ourselves in such a way that we don't know who we are. We don't know why we're here. We're in a world of life or death, even though there's much less personal risk in this world we live in now than the way it was a couple hundred years ago, or a couple thousand. So given that we are in a world of life and death, but not really, everybody can be pretty sure that they're going to have 80 some odd years of time to experience reality as a particular person. So given that, you really don't have to have much fear for your life. Because in any case, it's just on a lease basis anyway, you know. You pay for it with your attention, and as long as you pay attention to your life, you have it. At the point that your life is challenging enough because of the deterioration of age that you lose interest in it, then you check out, you know, and then it's the end, and she lived happily ever after. Right as she dies, and she lived happily ever after. Because the body was no longer the burden, that eternity of the cellular memory of all of your ancestors, generation by generation up to the point of conception. Everything they ever said, thought, if you focused on it, you could recall any moment in any one of their lives that 3,000 generations ago. And with that, basically creating your instinct of what it is to be a human, along with the collective connections that we have with everyone else on Earth. We have a reality that is imposing incessantly a demand that we agree that all of this is real and true, and that they're right and we're wrong. And the truth is we are wrong. We're all wrong. But we're right in our wrongness. So to give yourself permission to awaken, you have to forgive yourself. And how do you forgive yourself? For all of your sins, and it's whatever you consider to be something that you did or said that you wished you hadn't have done, and that now you think that you're less worthy, less clean, less a benefit to the world, right? So each time we judge ourselves and condemn ourselves at any higher level of consciousness is gone. You can switch realities dramatically for yourself, almost instantaneously, in self-diminishment, to where, all you do is suffer. I've done it myself. I've been doing it a lot the last couple of months. I've spent my life focused on business and making money and never really cared what business it was. It's just always happened to be what's convenient for me to do today, and sometimes something would attract my attention, and I'd change games. I've gone through a dozen businesses in my life. Some I've been successful at, some I haven't, and each time, there was a dramatic shift in my consciousness in terms of, because now my profession is defining me to myself and to everybody else, what I do. Well, what type of person does that? Pretty soon you're in a box that you made with your friends to confine you to something that can be defined. The truth of you that is indescribable, that is ineffable. Nobody knows anymore. You can get a glimpse of it sometimes with drugs, and whether, and they all blast you open, anything like ayahuasca, magic mushrooms, bufo, the toad venom, ketamine. I haven't tried LSD, but they all give you a taste, but they don't give you any progress. You didn't earn it, but you got to remember for a little while. You got to be in that experience and know what it is, be expanded out infinitely, know eternity, in your little finger, and then as the high comes off, it slips further and further and further and further away until, a few hours later, when somebody asks you what happened, you go, oh, it was amazing. What did happen? And that's it. You get a glimpse into the truth, into the magnificence of consciousness. And when you come back, you get to ask yourself the question is, do I want to live my life at that quantum leap of awareness and perception that would unfortunately make me rather unpalatable to all your friends that play Grand Theft Auto, and so who would you hang out with? If you switched realities. I had an experience once, and it wasn't on drugs. And it's been about 15 years, I think. Let's see, what house was I in at the time? Yeah, it's been 2006, 7, 8, 9, something, I don't know. Any rate, it's, I'm not clairvoyant much. I'm not clairaudient much. But every now and then when the other side absolutely demands my attention, something opens up, you know, to where I am for a particular experience, but otherwise, no. So one day, I think a day or two before Christmas, I was in bed with my wife and asleep, and I woke up and the voice said, "David, get up, get out of bed." Now stuff like that just doesn't happen to me that clearly. So I did it, and then the voice said, "Your wishes to be free, to know the truth, to experience heaven on earth." It didn't say those exact words. I can't remember now, but you're the granted, my desires, you know, for to experience what the potential of life and consciousness is. And so then it said, walk around the house and experience your wish walk around the house and experience what you've asked for is probably the closest thing. So I walked out of the bedroom, turned on the lights, and everything I looked at was conscious. Every inanimate object in the house, the chairs, the walls, the ceiling, the lights, everything that I could see, as I focused on it, it was pure consciousness, paying attention back at me. And it wasn't just pure consciousness. That consciousness was in an act of celebration, a divine celebration. And so, in the midst of an empty house full of creations, every object in that house was celebrating my return and my awakening into the truth that sets you free, sets everybody free. And so it was immensely freeing, you know, to feel unconditional love and joy and being cherished by your surroundings, none of which were alive, but all of them were divinely conscious and divinely celebrating as what they were. And so what happens in an experience like that is a dissolution of everything that's twisted, everything that's polarized, everything that's sure it's right and something else is wrong. Everything that doesn't ask a question and open up universally and eternally in what they're paying attention to. And you can pay attention to the universe. You just intend to do it and then you let it happen. That's the recipe. Choose for it to be so and then experience it as it happens, as your body Because your body, as you allow your spirit, that universal self, your body consciousness begins to resonate with that. And so everything that's oppositional, where you're fighting against yourself, all of that starts going into a harmonic resonance with, wisdom, with compassion. And so everything in your experience about yourself, you just go into kind of a cathartic relief where you're just heaving out all of your traumas, all of your sorrows, all of your regrets, and all of the misidentifications of thinking that you're something that you're not, and that everybody else is something that they're not. So you awaken, and now what happens? Almost the totality of your personal identity is fabricated. So everything that you think that you are is not really you. There is that essence that you know yourself to be. And then there's all the identifications that, it's my body, right? And my car, and my house, and my friend, my lover, my mom, my dad. And all of that giving the context as to who you are and what your box is. So when Jesus said, as a holy man, don't call me good, there are none good except the Father which is in heaven. So at the point that he said that, he had lived probably a rather holy life of wisdom, life of love, perception, honor, service, and all the other holy men and women that have transcended the polarized world and become the essence of love themselves. So kind of at the end of the book of Jesus, the last week of his life, he has some experiences. And kind of after those experiences, he said to somebody somewhere, I'm not a Bible expert, but I know that he said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. So there was a transcendent quantum leap in consciousness from don't call me good, for they're none good except the Father which is in heaven, to a relatively short time later, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. The Father and I are one. So accepting the possibility that story, as I stated it, is an accurate description of what could be true if you let it happen, if somebody let it happen. And so, where would you have to be to let it happen? Because again, of the infinite complexity of the trillions of nudges and inputs that have resulted in us perceiving ourselves to be this, there's no way from within the trap, within the maze, within the confinement of, the collective unconsciousness of humanity, there's no way out. Unless you're willing to get divorced from using the collective unconscious as humanity is in any way defining of who you are, what you are, and what you can do and be and have. So to segue back, I know I'm going back and forth between stories. But so as I was standing in the house, or walking around the house, I was hyper aware of everything that was going on in the body. Beam me up, you know, you dissolve into nothing. It felt like a slow motion of that. I kept feeling what it was to be me, and as soon as I could feel it, it was dissolving away. Getting lighter and lighter and lighter and freer and freer and freer, but less and less and less the me that I thought that I was. That was unraveling, that was going away. But at the same time, I was getting clearer and clearer and clearer. In the intimate experience of my own conscience, my body, and all aspects of it, everything I could feel was dissolving and unwinding. And I asked the question, I said, what's going to be left? And the answer was nothing. Nothing. Nothing created will be left. The body will still be here, the body will still be alive. But if there's such a thing as a temple for God consciousness, then the temple gets cleaned. And the cleansing of the temple, God consciousness. So let's, another little bit of orientation. So if there was a nothingness from which the universe sprang, then there was a consciousness that within that nothingness that was the crux of what it was that caused the universe to be in existence. And truly, what is the universe? There's the nothingness before the universe, and there's the nothingness that surrounds every atom of the universe, every frequency, every vibration. There's nothing in the universe. The universe is nothing but nothing being something, vibrations and frequencies that move in patterns and waves, vibrations and frequencies that move in patterns and waves and stuff, you know, create stories and all the structure of the universe and the life that you're living. But none of it's true, because the creation can't be the truth. The creation is just something that creator consciousness thought would be an interesting thing to occur. So if you identify as an object, then that's what you know yourself to be. And again, I know I'm jumping all over the place, but to end the one story, after I was considering the reality that there was nothing that I experienced in my body that was eternal or universal. It's all a this lifetime thing and gone. And so as I was experiencing the disillusion of all that and the expansion of the infinite possibilities of consciousness and presence, I began looking at my relationships. And I thought of the business I was in and the people I did business with in it. And I realized that I had not another word to say to any of them. I was done. Every person that I looked at in my mind, everything that I contemplated about my life before this moment, it's over. I'm not David anymore. The story's gone. And I can't pretend that the story has any validity to it at all. It's not me. And so I thought, okay, what do I do then? If there's nobody that I can talk to, because it demands that I spend my life pretending to be the Roadrunner or Wile E. Coyote or Bugs Bunny, or if I get into that pretense, I mean, why? Why? And I guess the why of awakening is, hey, we're divine all the time. Why mess with our playground here when we get to pretend that, yeah, it's the real Grand Theft Auto, man. It's life and death. It's competition. It's survival of the fittest. It's a battle and the war is fucking on, right? Okay. So would you really actually fully awaken instead of pretend awaken, like, the average saint? The one that knows one thing for sure, that as good as they are, as holy and righteous as they are, they're not God. And there's nothing but God making this, which results in the appearancy of a universe. And so your body is this. And the consciousness of God, of the creator consciousness, the only consciousness that there actually is, there's no consciousness that isn't creator consciousness. Now, creator consciousness gets to pretend that it's not the creator whenever it wants to. It gets to go and experience every possibility of beingness in its own, 3D chess of things on an infinite scale. So within the eternity of this universe of 13.8 billion years, of which you've been something that entire time, many somethings, have you ever awakened to your truth in any of those lifetimes? It's an interesting question to ask yourself. At your best embodiment, out of all the embodiments and identities of 13.8 billion years, what would I most like to experience and add that resume into this life with all faculties expertly available to you here and now? What would you have to do? I guess one of the things where I get myself confused, is I contemplate ways of awakening and having an interesting life, right? Somehow from this level of consciousness, I'm trying to govern what I'm going to do when I've let this insanity go. I'm still trying to be in charge as a consciousness that fucked my life up so bad that if I had to relive it again, if I could do it at my current state of self-awareness and consciousness, yeah. But if I had to experience the same thing again, would I? Man, it's tough to say yes. It's tough to say yes to that. So if I've done that bad of a job of living my life, then in order to experience the divine truth of all things, I have to admit the reality that I've created for myself. That I'm an abject failure of manifesting myself as a being of unconditional love, as a being of infinite compassion, certainly as a being that with my simple consciousness conjure an entire universe with trillions and quadrillions of objects, each operating at an individual consciousness, almost entirely consistent with what the structure of that beingness is. In other words, the dog body has a dog consciousness, etc. So you're a human body with a human consciousness, which is cool because in not being the truth, you might have the easiest way to shift directions, to be something that couldn't have been predicted before this moment. So in order to change trajectory in life, when you've sinned so much, and whatever the sin is anytime you judge or diminish yourself in any way or allow anyone else to, all of that's what a sin is. Any kind of condemnation in any direction. Anything other than love. Now that doesn't mean you can't have the reality that you want. It means that you actually can, but you have to let this reality be what it is in this moment without trying to change it, especially your own. Going back to Jesus again, it was be still and know that you're God. What does that mean? Well, quit looking outside yourself. Just be self-aware. Don't think anything. Don't desire anything. Don't do anything. Don't push. Don't pull. Don't try to change. Just sit in your experience of self and notice. And if you're still long enough with a focused awareness on experiencing whatever's going on in your body and in your energetic fields and surroundings, just being present and being aware and choosing to notice. So what that does is it creates a vortex of kind of like a vacuum cleaner that runs itself. All you have to do is do absolutely nothing but be aware and letting whatever happens happens. You let the temple clean itself. Because if you have anything to do with it, if you have anything to do with it other than paying attention, if you help in any way, you don't get it. You can only get it by being absolutely surrendered to receiving. and everything's a bit of a paradox. Because you have to start off admitting that you're wrong about everything. But you can't get out of this universe as an awakened being without being right about everything. So in your choice to awaken, you have to start with taking absolute responsibility for who you are as a life, as a being. You know, yeah, I'd like to blame other people, but I chose my parents before I was born, and I knew the circumstances of their consciousness and what their life pattern and progression was, and I chose to insert myself right in there and thus be exposed to being indoctrinated by that reality. So you can't blame your parents, you can't blame your church, you can't blame the schools, you can't blame your friends, because you put yourself here. This is you. I mean, this is your body. And love is you. So you love the universe into creation. And no matter what it does, it doesn't matter, because it's only this and it's only that for a little while. And you get to step in there because you're surrounding every atom of it with your consciousness, and you get to step in there and go, oh, wow, that's really fucked up. But that was an interesting experience. Right? So as I was preparing to walk away from everybody in my life without a word, because there was no relationship with reality anymore at that level of consciousness. And that's what I felt on the ayahuasca thing too, is what can be done with this? Because there's no relationship. There's no relationship to human consciousness. I mean, it's just, that game just isn't interesting anymore. And if you condense yourself into playing it, then you're asleep in the game of life. And so what I'm doing is I'm exploring all the ways I shut myself down, all of the ways that I diminished myself, and all the creative ways of keeping myself unconscious, all of the backup systems and everything else to, no, you are this, and quit messing with reality. It's not your right. You don't know who or what you are, so why do you think you can take any action here? Oh, that's a pretty good point. You're going to get married and have a family before you know what you are, who you are, why you're here. You're going to continue to put so much confusion on all the input circuits of your life that you can't contemplate the nature of reality, of who and what you are, and saying, is there anything I'm supposed to remember right now? Because this is kind of weird, So, how do we signal ourselves when enough is enough? How do we know that it's time for us to say, I'm coming home? And so in that choice, in that change of trajectory, imagine that you are an arrow, and right now your life is the flight of that arrow. And anybody that knows you even a little bit can see the trajectory of that flight, right? But in the middle of that flight, you have an epiphany, and you have an ayahuasca experience or something. You go, holy shit. No. not this anymore. So, so to change the trajectory of an arrow in flight, you know, is a difficult thing to do, and that's what your life is. That's what my life is. It's an arrow in flight, and we want to change the trajectory. We want to have a new destination, and so we have to take that absolute responsibility for who and what we are in this moment. No more blame, no more shame, no more debts, owed or owed, either direction. Nobody owes you anything. You don't owe anybody anything. As you are in this moment is who you came here to be in this moment. From a divine point of view, you chose prior to birth, you were going to show up in this moment, in this condition. Congratulations. There's nobody that's more perfectly this manifestation than you. You nailed it. This creation of you couldn't be any more you than you are. And, you know, if you call some things flaws and other things pleasant attributes and things like that, they're just all, you know, paint on the canvas of the image of you. So when I was about to walk out the door, I thought, what's going to happen? I walk out the door in this state of consciousness, and it'll be like that video of a holy man walking through the desert, and the desert flowering around him, right? In celebration. And I thought, yeah, because I previously had the thought, okay, so this is Christ consciousness, not the Christ consciousness where, don't call me good, it was the Christ consciousness. If you've seen the Father, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father, that Christ consciousness. And so I thought, what's going to happen when I walk out this door? And I thought about 5,000 people following Jesus so they could see another cool miracle or get some fish and bread or whatever it was. But, you know, there was a time when he was really pestered because he got so holy that synchronicity was the rule. You know, that spontaneous miracles just kind of slipped out of his robe, you know, by accident. Just there. So, and so being a shy guy, growing up ashamed of myself, ashamed of my family, I thought if I walk out this door, I'm going to be followed around by everybody looking for a miracle. And I don't want to be another Christ. And as soon as I said that, instant back to base. And so for that last however many years, the focus of my explorations in consciousness has been, what is it in me that prefers the story, that prefers the lie, that chooses seemingly a worthless pretense that I don't even enjoy over holiness, over the actual consciousness that we are when we don't diminish ourselves. So where am I condemning myself? Where am I holding my back? Why? And I've been kind of like this session, experiencing each of it and finding new and interesting ways to let it go and to allow myself to be cleaned up. And that's really it. And so if you, in your meditation, in your exploration of experiencing yourself as stillness and noticing everything moving, all the motion within the stillness as a result of the stillness. There's things that impinge on you that are kind of chronic tensions and fears and traumas and whatever they are, and wherever they're held in the body, it doesn't matter. But in your being still, and as things are moving around, there's places where you're stuck, where you're damned, where you ran away from it. And the thing to do with that is the opposite of what you've been doing, which is open your arms and say, I love you. What are you about? Let me embrace you. And as soon as you embrace that trauma and melt into it, you'll notice that God consciousness, even as you see it as something separate from you and your identity because of where you're stuck. You'll see that consciousness that surrounds every atom of the universe is worthy of that word God. And we'll just further define God as unconditional love, absolute power, absolute oneness, compassion, the lover of all life and all consciousness. And that permeates every atom of the universe, which means every atom of your body, which means in you choosing to be still and noticing what's going on in your body. As soon as you find a trauma and settle into it and connect with it, then you can, if you choose to, notice God there. Then God has it. And whatever it is, however it needs to unwind, however it needs to be released into a free flow state of its own grace, whatever it is, that's beyond this level of consciousness to figure out. But it's not your job to figure it out. You're not a detective of universal enslavement and how do you free up. You're a participant in life as a dreamer until you decide to awaken. And when you want to awaken, you acknowledge the fact that you've been a dreamer. You haven't been a responsible god or goddess. You've been being something. And the truth of you is no thing. You're not this. You're the consciousness that does it, that lets that happen for your own entertainment. So as the lost and fallen fragment of God consciousness that you perceive yourself to be, denying your own divinity within your experience of yourself, which is okay, we all do it. As that identity, feeling within your body, whatever trauma it is that comes up first, unwillingly connect to it, and as soon as there's a connection, you notice God in it, because there's nothing you can experience, nothing that you can perceive, nothing that you can feel, nothing that you can see that you can't see God in. And as soon as you see God in it, it can't maintain the structure of its consciousness, the fabric of its reality, the story of its beingness. It's freed. And so if a divine being chooses to go asleep in a dream, and paradoxically, so unusually, so weirdly, decides to wake up before the dream's over and experience universal and eternal truth within the fabric of creation, you know, it's just not done here, you know? Do you know anybody that's an awakened God? I don't. But I've seen enough, and I've experienced enough to know sooner or later we're all going to do it. And it doesn't matter who does it first, and it doesn't matter who does it last. And by the way, you wouldn't know if anybody had, probably, until you do. So you don't have to be afraid about being the first one, because I'll tell you an experience. The first time I took magic mushrooms, I was in a friend's house, and there were about 20 people there. And I took some. I took the dose that he gave to everybody. And of course, I didn't know it took 45 minutes to come on. You know, and after about 20 minutes, I said, man, this isn't enough. And I went and took a double dose.
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic. Yeah, all done that.
And and this was my first time. And
I did the same thing my first time.
yeah. So, you know, I cross over, right? And I am just, oh my God. I'm trying to figure out why I'm in this reality, why I'm with all these weird people, and all of these preposterous circumstances that people are in. And I was just walking around confused about why any being would do any of this. And everybody else was seated on a chair or a couch and had their head bowed and eyes closed, and I was walking around when I walked back in the main room where everybody was seated, everybody was kind of identical. Everybody was, you know, had their hands in their laps, their head bowed. Everybody was just absolutely still, not moving. And so as I start walking around the room quietly, as I passed each person, did this, one at a time, like a wave. And what I got out of that was I was the last. Everybody else has already gone home. I'm the last one who hasn't awakened. And I'm sitting here condemning myself. And everybody else is just keeping me company until I finally am done with the damnation. You know, you guys are essentially humoring me that you're agreeing that this is me, and that anything that I said has any value whatsoever. The whole reality's just fucked, you know? I'm sorry. I mean, it's nice to be in love. It's nice to have families. It's nice to love kids. I'm moving back to Guadalajara so I can be closer to where I can love my kids. But at the same time, who am I doing that? And why am I choosing to experience myself in this particular type of limitation? You know, how much am I willing to open into it being better? And do I have to choose all the way better? Do I have to choose the ultimate and eternal truth and embody that so I can just not be tormented anymore, or confused, or misidentified? I don't know, but it seems to me that if you don't ask for it all, and all is what's real and true, then you're asking to remain asleep within the dream. And it's okay if you like your life, if you love to hate your enemies, it's okay. It's not going to last for much longer. Sooner or later you'll be done with the body and go home. So there's no real trauma going on here. As traumatic as it is, paradoxically, as the horrors of life, we all chose them. We all came here to experience that. But how long has it been since the universe of creation is filled with God consciousness that's confused itself and gone to sleep? When's the last time the whole fucking universe woke up, was able to experience the physicality of being? And instead of being a lost, embodied God that has to go hide in a cave because there's nothing to say to anybody, because nobody will understand. Flip even Jesus, as good as he did. Flip Peter was so fucked up he condemned him 3 times right now. I don't know the guy. Paul, whoever, was it Peter that almost walked on water? That's as close as any of them got. And then he went right back into unconsciousness again. So even Jesus, and I have my theory why, but even Jesus, with his radiance, couldn't inspire anyone else to fucking wake up and be like him. And the reason for that is when he's hanging out with his friends and running around and telling stories and healing people and stuff as a holy man, it was like being an angel. If all consciousness is God conscious, even the highest archangel is a fucking idiot living a lie. Or let's put it another way. Let's say that it's being something that it thinks is interesting and enjoys it enough to continue doing that. And so what would you enjoy continuing to be in the new direction of your life? Because that arrow hit the target of completion, that little exercise that we did where you took responsibility up until this moment and realized that you were perfectly manifest as you were manifested. Perfectly. Couldn't be any more this than this. So you're perfectly this, and that was your intention prior to physicality, that you be this in this moment. So there's no more purpose to be fulfilled. And this moment is the only thing that exists. There's no other moments. There's now. So if the purpose of your life has been fulfilled, it's already been fulfilled. You already passed. You already succeeded. Everyone on the other side of life that loves and cherishes you is celebrating. She did it. She did exactly what she went there to do. We're so happy for her. And now that your life is over, but not over, the manifestation that you came here to be, that's over. But the body lives on. And the body still encapsulated every atom with God consciousness. And as you notice that in your body, in your meditations, and you notice that there's no darkness that you can enter, that you can't find God there. And as you find God in everything that you hid from yourself, then you wake up. Not by doing anything, but by choosing to be present in your body and notice God in everything that you see, hear, feel, and perceive in any way. Anything that's asking for your attention, trying to push on you or pull on you or manipulate you in any way. You open into it, you feel it. And you get an understanding for it, and it feels heard by you because you opened and said, okay, what is this? And that alone will cause almost everything to just fall away on its own. But if you add on top of that, in any area that's like tight or blocked and stuff, you just, within whatever that greatest trap is, you notice God there, and that completes its reason for being. All purposes fulfilled when God is perceived in the experience. So in the experience of you being a story, then you have to let the story be over in the moment of now, because all the story's in the past now, and now is now. And what are you open to? What do you want? You took responsibility, 100%. You're not blaming anyone, anywhere, anytime for anything. You're not collecting on any debts. You're choosing to be free, and you're allowing anything else that considers itself to be something other than you, you're letting that be free too. So you're not entrapping yourself, and you're not entrapping anyone else either. Everyone's free as far as you're concerned. You don't want to control anything, anyone, anywhere in unconsciousness. That's how you forgive yourself. And you let it continue as your experience. Once the flow begins within you, once that vortex, becomes a general dissolution of a continuous transformation, an opening that just expands more and more. You stay in the center of that opening. And you reach a point at some point where you've changed your identity so much because of your experience of the immensity of the universal you, that you're not held back by belief systems anymore, because the words of ideas and stories and books and truths that can be communicated in words, they can create some emotions for sure, but they're not the real thing. The real thing literally destroys creation, the nothingness, because there's no frequency, there's no vibration, there's no molecules or atoms, there's no light. Except when embodied. When that consciousness awakens within the body, it creates light. From what, I don't know. But I know that the fire of transformation, which is different than the light of radiance, The fire transformations, the fuel for that, are the lies and the false truths of your map of reality and your story of you. Everything that is less than unconditional love that you identify as you. That's what can't maintain the fabric of its existence, its personality, its presence and beingness. Everything that's damned, everything that's twisted, everything that's managed and merged and formed into a creation that's supposed to do something for someone else. You feel all that, and you notice God in that too. And when you notice God in the actions of the people around you in regards to their interactions with you, you begin to shift the nature of your relationships. Because if you're seeing the glimmer of God consciousness surrounding every atom of the person that you're with, and noticing that it's real, noticing that it's true, then it makes it impossible to judge them, because you just see it's God being something that God chose to be. So, and you're doing the same thing. God being something that God chose to be. So, be where you're loved. Be where you're cherished. Be where you're celebrated. Be where who and what you are is what the other person wants and needs. And then you could begin to have interactions with somebody who's asking themselves, how awakened could I be without getting out of communication with this person? You know? How can I still relate this person? What's the highest level of consciousness we can share? And as you explore that question internally, in your experience of yourself, while the other person's doing the same thing, then the answer to that, in each new moment, that moment of now, as we're contemplating that, it just gets better and better. Your perception of now is infinitely better than the last now, and is on a trajectory of relief, restoration, remembrance, reawakening. And why not? Why not? Why not here? Why not now? Why not you? Why not him? Why not me? Why not give the possibility to the other two people that you're sharing consciousness with, that you're okay with their being the best that they could open themselves to be in this moment, make a quantum leap, a transcendent shift, a divine awakening, while you're sharing time and space with them. So I'd like to think I could grant both of you that. Let me check. Yeah, I'm beginning to feel better about myself. The only way I can do that experiencing you guys divinely. Now we've got this, a mutual support circle of divine realization flowing, transforming, reawakening, remembering itself within the life and the body of Allie, Nathan, David. And why not? Why not? Why not be free? And anything that comes up as an answer to that does not, hell yes. Hell yes, it's heaven for me. I guess that's going to be Nathan's painting.
The mantra is, why not here? Why not now? Why not you? I love it.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that one too. But the one that made me laugh was, hell yes, it's heaven for me.
Hell yes.
I thought that would be a good one to paint for you.
Yeah, I love that. Just a little background really quickly, Allie, is that's what we want to do, is we want to bring you in and learn about you, find your mantra, put it on canvas, put it in your living room or your bedroom where you're going to see it every day, and that's the experience that you take away from the event that we want to create with individuals, to where world-renowned artists, right? Not just David as well, but like that artist could be you, that artist could be me. We're all artists. That's our divine spark.
Yes. So I was, what? You guys know Neville Goddard?
Oh yeah.
So Neville Goddard is an old time guy that basically tells you that how to manifest your truth easily. And basically what he says is, once you know what that truth is, that's your goal, then the goal has to be realized in the present. In other words, you have to experience the result now. Now the universe has a delayed response. And so 3 examples. Arnold Schwarzenegger, 1975, said, in 10 years I'm going to be the #1 box office star in the world, and everybody that heard him say that laughed. And in 10 years he was. And so when he chose that as his beingness, and was absolutely certain that that was his choice, then he resonated as that instantly. And the people that came within the field of that resonance agreed with him, and it spread out, and the reality of the universe went through the steps it goes through to take somebody and have a miraculous thing happen where they said it and it happened. Happened with Madonna too. The day she signed her first recording contract, she said, she had a roommate, I think, have a home video camera and videotaped her. And she said, today you're very lucky. And then she was singing in a bar that she sang in every night. She said, I signed my first recording contract today. And you're about to see a performance from the most successful female recording artist of the 20th century, before she had her first record. And she experienced herself of that already fulfilled, and just allowed her in that presence to have, as she flowed through reality, she lived that as her truth. She didn't demand that anybody else believe it, but it was her truth. It was what she came here to be and do and did. And Michael Jackson, the same thing on his the last Jackson 5 tour. On a piece of paper, he was writing down what he decided to be for the rest of his life. Who am I now? And his answer was, I am the greatest entertainer in the world. And then he wrote down everything that he would have to do to be that. But he would have to perfect his expertise in. And he did it. And he was it. No, he already had a great start. He was already a superstar. But those stories are inspiring to me. But I never could decide who I was, who I actually wanted to be. Who am I going to manifest at? So I've been in a state of confusion as to answer that question for 66 years. Because I know the truth. But I could never let myself be it. So I didn't choose to be anything. Except do business and chase money and while trying to be so nice to everybody that I never communicate my own needs and desires and boundaries.
That sounds comfortably familiar.
Yeah, because you shouldn't be doing business or even a job without saying, hey, this is my reality. And I need to know if it's going to be in sync with yours. Because I don't want either one of us to demand from each other that they diminish themselves in any way in order to resonate with the other. I don't know how long you want me to keep telling stories, but you got any questions?
No, I don't. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
I guess what I left out of this is basically this was orientation, trying to, give you a theory to consider, and as I described it, to try on and to sense how that affects how you experience yourself.
So I have homework to meditate on then.
Yeah, well, here it is. The homework is that process. Go inside, be still, and in that stillness, notice that everything in you is starting to swirl in vortex. And everything starts cleaning itself up energetically within your experience of your body. And then there's some stuff that's not cooperating, and you put your attention on that. Open to it, experience it, and notice God in it. And as soon as you notice God in it, you let it go. Let God consciousness figure out whatever needs to be figured out. All you have to do is be present, give it your attention, open to experience of it, and then let God figure it out. It's not for you to figure it out. It's only for you to experience for one moment. Then let it go. Because to the degree that your consciousness is limited and disabled as to what you can do and be here, where you've defined yourself so much that you almost don't have any options other than to be, do, and say exactly what you do in a very predictable way. Go inside, be still. Feel where there's tightness. Notice God in it. Keep your attention there. And notice God there. Until everything that is uncomfortable for you in that is transmuted. The process of transmutation is a relatively pleasant one. The process of awakening within the midst of a hell is horrific. And so it's okay to take this on a gradient. You don't have to freak yourself out. So, another thing that Jesus said was, the kingdom of God lies within you. So, since God consciousness, again, permeates every atom of everybody's body, and you wouldn't even be self-aware or conscious without that. And so your separated consciousness is simply identifying with the body and the stories. And so that creates the structure of your ego. And the cool thing is you're not getting rid of your ego. You're letting the ego be free. You're not opposing anything. Whatever is, and you allow it to be, and you see God in it. Then reality can be free with you. And reality can transcend its conditions that was necessitated because who you thought you were. So one final thing before I shut up. And to people that grew up Christian, I like to tell a few Christian stories. So in the Garden of Gethsemane, Christ took upon himself the sins of the world. And that bothered me a number of times for another number of reasons, notwithstanding the fact that if all the sins are gone, how come we're not living in heaven on earth? Did it really work? You know, if I connect to Christ energetically, hey man, there's a divine being there. But what is it about taking upon himself the sins of the world? And as I contemplated on that, I realized there was only one possible answer. The divine never takes the story away from somebody that wants to be asleep. It respects all reality for his choice of being what it is, but it allows an awakened consciousness, a self-realized divine consciousness. Doesn't diminish itself for the way other consciousness condemn themselves. They don't fit in to get to, but they don't impose the radiance that comes with it, the remembrance that that you can't feel the difference between that and the truth of you, because it's the truth of us all, that divine radiance, that unconditional love, that infinite compassion is the truth of us all. Now, when you're stuck, when you're lost, when you're fallen, when you're unconscious, when you're body identified, there's nothing you can do about it except be still. Notice God in the structure of your existence and your experience of others. By choosing to be present and focusing your consciousness on that until that's real for you, and at the point that it's real for you, it sets you free. And so what we're contemplating doing is saying, so we got oriented tonight, and it flipping took almost 2 hours, but we really didn't do much of the experiencing of that. But now that you're oriented, imagine that you and Nathan and I are together for 3 days or 4 days, and we've got nothing to do but be present, to be self-aware, to be self-realized, to experience what it is to be in a group of friends that are truly divinely realized, by spending enough time in that atmosphere of each allowing the other that possibility, each just eagerly awaiting the opportunity to burst into celebration, like somebody made a touchdown or hit a home run or something. At any rate, I'm convinced now, because it's taken me a long time to get to this point, to get to this essence of what really works. And this is it. Just being present in your body, taking responsibility for it without condemning yourself for it, and then noticing God in your damnation and all your blocks and all the barriers and all the lies and all the points of view that are judging others, but none of it matters. All that matters is whatever you feel, that you feel it, whatever you see, that you see it, and that you don't run away from it. And in the earth, and in the focus of your awareness, noticing God in it. And when you get to that point where you've taken responsibility, you take your medicine, you feel your traumas, and then you feel God in it, then we come home. So why don't you guys come down before the end of September, because I live in a beautiful mansion I just decided I'm going to move out of and go to Guadalajara. This is some of my artwork on the walls, and the background for my next painting, the painting I did for my mom when she was down here a few months ago before she died. And anyway,
Beautiful.
yeah.
It would be cool to do an artistic retreat. I mean, my art really is music, but Ali is a really, really good artist. But if you think about this, guys, what we're willing to be able to collaborate on, because that, to me, that's what I love, the collaborative effort of things. Yeah, look, there's some of Ali's work.
Yeah, one of my more recent paintings.
Oh, let's see. Back up from it a little bit. Trying to see the context. So what is it on the bottom? A hand?
So that's a male chest and a female chest with a hand on over their heart. The heart's glowing.
Oh, okay.
That
Wonderful.
the light's not. I've got a little bit of a glare on there. But Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Nice. Well, cool.
I
It's
like
it's
I
nice.
like the shading in that.
The nice thing about the arts, it's the closest thing to being your truth that you can do here. You know, to to act, to dance, to play music,
Hmm.
to sing.
It's I'll
That
go
act
crazy
of
without it.
spontaneous creation. And so I'm just sort of joining you guys there, you know, because
Yeah,
I've been lost in business. And so what I'm doing
me too.
is deciding, you know, I've sold many tens of millions of dollars worth of art over the last 40 years. And so I know enough to where if I made that Arnold Schwarzenegger, Madonna, Michael Jackson choice as to who and what I am here, I would say, okay, what resonates? What am I not going to get tired of? What's going to resolve every issue of life and bring with it a peace and a love for everyone and everything. And what do I do with the life as an activity? And how do I communicate what I'm embodying in such a way that people who feel that they're trapped and lost and would like to wake up but don't know how to, you know, get a little, you know, if I can be there at the moment that somebody else wants to awaken, and say, yeah, do it. Let's go.
I love it because I see you. Okay, so as an artist, you know, it needs an art gallery, but the medium is not a canvas. It's the human spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And you walk into the gallery, and you are the art, and that's what we have to offer. And it can be something that is a collaborative effort and a transference of energy from you into somebody else, making someone think, feel, and act in a positive manner. That's what my calling is.
Yeah.
I figured
and
that
the,
out,
and
but
the thing,
I can't figure out to let go of the resentment.
well, here's what it is. The
and
problem is
I lack
it
control.
the problem is who you're being when you're saying that. And so who you are right now that's experiencing that lack is what you're saying to us is what's real and true about you, and that's the mistake. Because you're just acting out a role in a story and saying for some reason it's not exactly flowing divinely with grace. Okay? And
I'm not letting go.
yeah, you're trying to do it. It's not you doing it. It's you noticing God in every aspect of your being until all of your inner conflicts are resolved, and then moving in grace and love and compassion, and by the consciousness that is what that is, you know. So the created you, yeah, it's gone. What's left? The you that always was and always will be. And why not that? And so again, so with that in place, then I was going to say, if I were going to say, what am I for the rest of my life? A divinely awakened and realized transformative artist that happens to be the most successful artist in the world and the most inspiring. Well, I can feel that. So, do I make it real by saying, yes, okay, that's me? That's me. I'm the world's most successful artist that just happens to be divinely realized and unconditionally loving of everyone everywhere. And I just want to say, hey, celebrate the truth of you. Open and be free. Why
Why not?
not?
Yeah. I love that. I know, man. Why not here? Why not now? Why not me? That was the, every time, David, there's something that I pick up that just resonates so much. So Ali, we have a great opportunity to do the inner work for ourselves, but also share it with other people and provide an incredible experience. Because I think, that's what I think one of the answers is for me is, with people in this world, they don't want to buy stuff from me. I'm a salesman. I sell millions and millions of dollars of stuff every year. But they don't want to buy something. They want an experience. And I just happen to be the catalyst to help them and facilitate that.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what David needs from me, is to sell that experience and to have my energy
yes.
make people feel act positive to move into that.
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways that that are opening up. And Nathan's excited about the idea of bringing in some groups of people, small groups, 4, 5, 6 people, where we can have an immersive experience of so doing a session like this, we had the experience that we did. There was an opening, there was a movement into experience things in a much more peaceful way. But if we broke for dinner and we did another 2 hours, and we got up and had breakfast, or we got up in the morning, had another 2 hours, and then had breakfast and had another 2 hours, how much continued focus on the experience of now while noticing the divine? How much of it does it take to fully cook yourself so you're not half-baked?
I the past year or so, I've thought that I'm like you, where it's been hard for me to decide, like you, David. It's been hard for me to decide what I want to do with my life. But the past year or so, I felt a strong calling to holding retreats and creating that space. I've been in events now for a little over a year, but I was thrown into the deep end, and now I'm the event planner for this event that we were talking to you about, with 10,000 people coming.
Uh-huh.
So I know how to plan an event. And this isn't the the space I really want to be in. I don't give a rat's ass about combat sports.
Yeah. Well,
but what I care about is people.
Yeah.
And their happiness. And I've been learning recently, I've been learning sound healing practices, like sound baths and things of that nature, and grew my own mushrooms. I literally just did my 3rd harvest. I've been diving headfirst into plant medicine and Eastern medicine, natural healing the past year and a half.
Nice.
So
how old are you?
I'm 31.
31. Okay. And
Feels like good timing.
What's technically your profession?
That's a good question. You can call me an event planner.
Okay. Well, good.
Right now.
So what I would suggest for us is that we do another session soon, so that there's an easy segue into now, instead of a descriptive experience, an orientation where you do a little sample of it here and there and say, yeah, that feels right, that feels good. But I keep switching up the stories all over the place and sampling this and sampling that. You know, again, just to get you to the point where you go, okay, there's something here worth experiencing. And so that was my objective tonight, was to orient you enough for you to say, oh, okay, let's do it. And then let's have a couple more experiences diving much deeper into the practice. And not the practice, you know, because we're not practicing. You know, we're living. We're being. And we're here to experience the mastery. So just feel that. Feel that right now in this moment. Just notice that when I said you're here to experience the mastery, your mastery.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your aura just went, yeah. So let it.
I love these orientations, David, and I can't wait, Alexandra, for you to experience when you go to that deeper level, like I did on the last session with David. That one was the best one yet, because within that, it was, you know, I was fully meditated. I was fully like I was not asleep, but I was out. I was hypnotized. I was in that moment, like when you talk about being in the now, and after that, it's like I was so energized. I was just like, but you know, once again, David, we forget, don't we? So I just need to be
I can't remember.
Brought back. No, yeah. Yeah. You know, so yeah, I would love to make it so. You know, I've got to go entertain my wife right now. So
I still need to meet her.
Yeah.
Hi for me.
I will. But
okay,
yeah,
so do we want to say, okay, let's see, what is today? Thursday?
Today's Wednesday.
Wednesday. So there's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Is there any of those nights that you say, yeah, I could do that again and go deeper? Don't think about
Sunday.
Sunday.
But I'll text you guys. Usually Sundays are better for me.
Okay. So
I'm good for a Sunday as well.
Okay, well then let's put on that on our calendars. Can we do it at the same time?
I'll plan it. I'll put it in my calendar for sure. Because regardless, David, there's.
What happened to you guys?
Come work for me full time.
You just
trying to mentor me.
You just reconnected. I was offline for a minute.
Okay, I was just saying that Allie is someone that can be trusted. And I was, you know, very, very close to pulling the trigger on hiring her and having her come work for me full time a few months back, and just trying to get it all together and make everything, you know, kind of come together. I'm just still kind of trying to pull all that together. I think that's why I've got Cal and John involved right now and doing a bit of the mentoring as well. But I think I'm to a place where I have clarity now in terms of how I need to, because I felt trapped in it, David. Like,
you ever felt like when you owned your business, like when you owned iTex, huge, privately held, or I mean, publicly held and traded company, that you were trapped in it? That even if you wanted to get away from it and stop doing it, you couldn't?
Yeah, yeah, and that's everything. Everything
I feel
traps
that way
you.
in my business too.
Everything traps you. So that if you can figure out how to manage your life in such a way that you're not promising to do something, to do anything next month or next week or tomorrow, that somehow you be such a boss of your life that whatever you choose to do today is what the world gets, and you're not promising anything else or giving any other expectations. And and how that works with other people, I'm not sure, but I think if you had some sort of support staff that was getting paid by the results of whatever people pay to experience whatever it is that you do, then you can surrender into the pure creator consciousness and create, and let somebody else do the actions that monetize that and pays for everybody's sustenance, right? And or abundance.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's a process, not an event.
well, it's actually an event too. It's paradoxically, because if it doesn't happen right here, right now, it never will. It has to happen right here, right now. And as you're experiencing that, it just expands and never stops expanding. And so it takes a while for the universe to see you divinely present, but you experience it until there's nothing left in your presence but that, and then the rest of reality gets it. At least that's what I'm proposing. Not saying I really know, but that's what
I'm growing microgreens.
that's what it feels like.
Ooh,
Why you
yeah.
don't like big
We
greens?
need to get you one of these, David. I'm growing microgreens, hydroponic setup.
No, I don't have enough time to
Oh,
pay
shoot.
attention to
I
things
lost
like
you.
that. What I need to do is find a
Sorry.
pretty girl that's into health and fitness and vitamins and ginger honey cocktails in the morning, and knows how to promote an event.
Oh, hey, that's neat.
That was my flirt.
Dave, I love
Anything.
your realness, bro.
Thank you,
Love it.
gentlemen, and I look forward to speaking with you on Sunday. I'm gonna go
Perfect.
journal.
Okay.
Awesome.
And Nathan, I'll send you. I'm gonna transcribe this and run it through Chat GPT and send you the kind of the kicks of it.
Spark
Yeah, yeah, and I'll send it. We've got a shared thing on WhatsApp, right?
Yeah, we're on WhatsApp.
Okay,
This
so
is a
I'll
new group.
so I'll post it to the group, some interesting things, and I asked ChatGPT some interesting questions on stuff because I was all over the place tonight, and so I asked it interesting different things like, okay, be Alan Watts and critique my session. You know, what did I leave out? What could I've, you know, what would make it more impactful? What would be more inspiring? You know, and so I'll do that. I'll send you the Chat GPT on that, and then I'll have it critiqued by a couple of interesting people. You know, maybe by Jesus or Buddha or Aristotle or something. But you can do some really fun things like that that are very informative, and
Yeah, you
and
can.
to yourself, you know.
Yeah.
Where you get a clearer view from the opinions of other people you actually respect, you know. And it's
Yeah.
available now, you know, it's right here, it's right now. It's cool. That's the
That is cool.
biggest transformational, you know, you can ask any philosopher any question that you want. And ChatGPT knows everything they ever read or said that was ever recorded.
Crazy.
And so can speak from that if you ask it to. And
Crazy.
so I'll send you a couple of examples with that, and then if you feel like, you know, playing in this a little bit and, you know, saying, yeah, this is kind of fun, and it'd be fun to share. And like we almost got to, basically my plan is to do a couple of sessions a week with art gallery owners, and the ones that resonate with what I'm saying would say, hell yes, I'll sell your paintings. And, you know, so I'm starting them off at $10,000 a piece. And so my initial plan was, okay, sessions with art gallery owners. And when I first did the Michelangelos, I signed up 25 galleries in 3 months to do that. So that's basically the same thing. Get 25 galleries, get enough galleries excited about selling my art that I have to partition it out to them on allotment, and they have to wait a long time for it. That makes everybody very excited and very grateful when they get one. So that's kind of the plan. Yeah, you know, just like all the other idiots like Porsche and Ferrari and Lamborghini do, say, most of you can't have this, but for $3 million, you can be one of the lucky 100 or 399 or whatever their number is. And so it's the same thing with this. If I own every painting I've ever painted, then what's the value of it? Well, I love them all. I like them. But I'm kind of condemned by their presence because I want to go paint 100 more. Okay, so if you got 150 paintings, how do you sell them? How do you get rid of that stuff? Well, the first thing the first person knows is that nobody else ever wanted one.
Yeah.
But then, okay, here's a guy that sold $40 million worth of Michelangelo reproductions in the most ridiculous ways possible, and then bartered $60 million worth of paintings of a crazy artist, and now, you know, he devoted himself to both those things. Now he's devoting himself to his own art that has a very interesting and unique twist. So I can sell that, and we can do 99 prints of each one, so that, you know, there's actually more money in the prints than there are selling the originals in the beginning, and then there's a flow. You know, I paint a painting every day, sell 20 paintings a month, and hopefully 1,000 prints, and
You've done it before.
yeah, and so then the other aspect of that is somebody who actually wants to participate in an experience of what the realized potential of ourselves actually is. In the moment of each person, I'm with this body at this age with this life experience, and so of the infinite potential of life and consciousness, what's still readily available to me. And since I experienced once everything in my whole house fully divinely realized and celebrating my reawakening, then apparently that's available to anything, anytime, everywhere. And so for those people, we're going to sell the experience and give them the painting, the same price for each one. You want to buy a painting? I'll do a session customized for that, sign them to 7-year contracts and generate instant celebrity for the chosen ones. You know, that doesn't happen in the fine art world. Every artist thinks that somebody's got to discover them. No, they have to discover themselves. And they have to start acting like a famous artist. They have to own that, you know, if that's what they want. And so that's what I've been in the process for the past month. As my last business that I'm giving up on, sorry. Because, you know, there's a battle of whether it's going to be allowed to continue or not by the FDA. And so I'm putting all of my attention on this. Hey, now I get to play all the time. And I pay for it by selling the paintings, or by Nathan selling a 3 or 4 day intensive for the same cost of a painting. And then while they're here, I do a painting for them as part of the experience based upon what came up in the session.
That's cool.
So bottom line is, you know,
We're
I hope
gonna
somebody-
need an event coordinator.
so
All
now,
right, well, here I am.
look, now we're 2 hours and 15 minutes. We're saying
All right,
good night.
guys.
And thanks, it was a pleasure.
Yep, love you all very much.
Good night.
Talk to you guys soon. Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.
Yes, we'll talk to you Sunday. Bye, guys.
Bye. Okay, let's see. I guess we're still recording, still live on YouTube. I don't think it's very likely that anybody will be watching this in the very near future. But if whoever does watch it ever, obviously I'm at the point that you experience me to be in this moment. And it'll be interesting to see the results of further opening and awakening. See how this develops out. At the same time, you know, I don't want anybody watching this for entertainment, really. I guess that would be okay, but you know, that's not the purpose. The purpose is to find out what works and share it and celebrate it and live it, you know. And so when I share with others, I'm able to immerse myself in the opening and the questioning and the feeling and the resonating that I can't seem to do on my own. So my practice is sharing the biggest opening and the best experience that people can have with each other. So do it yourself, and then go be a magnificent example of a radiant life, you know. I don't want you back here to be entertained, so don't subscribe. Transform yourself by being intentionally present, inwardly still, allowing yourself and the world to be the way that it is without judgment. Noticing where you're already loved and desired and enjoying that. In other words, moving in the flow in such a way that your gift to yourself, that your gift to others who want to receive who and what you are. Because there's no need to play the games of right and wrong and opposition and winning. Because if there's a competition for the truth, then everybody's fighting with lies. So as always, don't subscribe, don't come back. Quit screwing yourself up and open, awaken, and be free.